Hi guys, so welcome to your homework portion of the assignment. We're going to be looking at the story of Scylla and Charybdis, and remember that you're going to be responding to some questions as well as summarizing to make sure you're understanding the story. And this is the nonfiction portion, so it might be a little easier to understand as it's written in story format versus poem format. So keep the video running as you go along through the slides and listen to the story as many times as you need to make sure you're understanding. So here we go. Scylla and Charybdis. We rode on downriver, held by the wind. We could barely make out the murky outlines of the riverbank, and the only sound was the regular splash of the oars. On and on we rode through the dark gloom. It seemed like ages before we pulled out of ocean into the open sea. The Mediterranean night came as a relief after the everlasting night of Hades. The full moon threw a pool of soft golden light across the water, and 1,000 bright stars studded the sky. Now, at last, we could relax, and my men rested their oars and lay back exhausted. I sat at the helm while my men slept. A steady southerly wind filled the sails and blew us on our way. With only the moon and stars for company, my mind turned back to the unhappy spirits of the dead. I wept for the souls of my lost comrades, and above all for my dear mother. Toward morning, when my tears ran dry, my thoughts moved on to the voyage to come. It was a weary prospect. After all we had been through, we were still far away as ever from Ithaca, our home. We sailed on through the night and most of the following day. It was early evening by the time we reached Aegina, and Circe and her maids were looking out for us on the beach. They had brought us food, which we devoured greedily, and fragrant wine to wash it down. Afterwards, Circe took my hand and led me down to the beach. "I want to talk to you alone," she said, "for you must leave at dawn, and there are many things you need to know." We walked to the edge of the pine forest above the beach and sat down in the shade of the trees. I breathed in the deep, heady scent of pine resin and rested my eyes on Circe's lovely face. She hesitated before she spoke, and I sensed that she wanted to ask me to stay. In all honesty, I cannot swear that I would have refused. But the moment passed. When the goddess spoke, it was not to love, but of dangers yet to come. Teresa's, it seemed, had only told me half of the story. Circe's soft words told me the rest. "Dear Odysseus," she began, "unlucky man, the jealous gods will grant you no peace. You have returned unscathed from grim Hades' house only to face an even greater trials. Listen carefully and promise to do exactly as I say." The goddess took my hand in hers and made me swear this solemnly to the great gods and everything dear to me. Then she went on, "Dear Odysseus, your voyage home will be more perilous than any battle on the dusty plains of Troy. Vengeful Poseidon is determined to destroy you, and the other gods will do nothing to stop him. Since Zeus has forbidden it, even Athena cannot help you. Once you leave these shores, you are on your own. From Aegina, you must steer due south. The north wind will carry you along. Toward evening, you will come to the island of the Sirens, 3 cruel enchantresses whose sweet song is irresistible to men. They will implore you to come ashore. But once ashore, you are lost. Their heavenly song will turn to hideous shrieks as they tear your flesh apart. I will give you special wax to block in your ears, for if you are deaf to their music, you will be safe. Once past the Sirens, you will sail on undisturbed until you approach the straits that divide the northern part of Thrinacia, where Hyperion keeps his golden cattle, from the mainland. Here you will have to make a choice. If you avoid the straits and sail around the west coast of Thrinacia, you will come to the Wanderers, a field of huge rocks scattered across the water. From a distance, few sights could look more inviting. Glistening in the sun, the deep blue rocks appear to float on the surface of a turquoise sea. The water is deep and as smooth as a mirror, and there is room between the rocks for easy navigation. Very close, however, the picture changes. Once a ship comes within range, the rocks turn gray and craggy. An icy wind whistles along them over the turbulent sea, and black clouds mass overhead. The rocks themselves begin to move, slowly at first, heaving and swaying from side to side, while deep groans like distant thunder drag themselves up from the bottom of the sea. Then the rocks move faster and faster until they are hurtled around and crash together. Any ship would be smashed apart in that chaos. It would be suicide to go that way. So you must enter the straits, where you will pass between two fateful cliffs. On one of them towers into the sky, the other is about half its size. An enormous fig tree grows straight out from the smaller cliff. It is a straight sight, but don't be tempted to look closer. An awesome monster, Charybdis, wallows on the seabed there. 3 times a day she stretches her vast tentacles out and swirls the water around and then sucks it greedily down, devouring whatever the whirlpool brings her. Halfway up the taller cliff, you'll see the entrance to a cave. Deep in its foul recesses lives the hideous sea hag Scylla. Scylla has 12 legs and 6 monstrous heads. She sits in her own filth, whining and yelping like a little puppy, waiting for her prey. She will certainly seize a man with each of her gruesome heads as you pass by. Nevertheless, I urge you to go that way. Much better to lose 6 men than to risk losing your ship and all of your lives. Finally, remember that Tiresias told you to avoid Thnirisa altogether. If you are forced to go ashore there, then whatever you do, be sure to leave Hyperion's sheep and cattle alone. Otherwise, you will lose your ship, your men, and maybe even your life. Circe squeezed my hand for the last time. Tears glistened on her cheeks as she turned away from me, and without another word she hurried off through the trees. The sky was already reddening in the east, and my men were stirring on the beach. We loaded the supplies that Circe had given us and set out to sea once more. As the goddess had foretold, there was a north wind to carry us along, and soon we had left the island to Aegina far behind. Now I repeated Circe's somber warnings to my men. Okay, guys, so we're going to stop there. You're going to respond to your questions, and see you again tomorrow. Bye.